Making headlines tonight. Concern at the highest level about the state of local crime. A lucky escape for two following a collision with a container truck. A time capsule placed at one of the National Library branches. And coming up in sports, another upset at the World Cup as Japan shocks Germany.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. The state of crime in the country continues to be worrisome for most. So much so that Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley says there is nothing that concerns her more than the crime situation in Barbados. Speaking about issues affecting Barbados' productivity during the Barbados Chamber of Commerce's business luncheon at the LESC, Ms. Motley says a multi-pronged approach will be taken by her government.
There is nothing that concerns me more in this country than that. There's nothing that keeps me up awake more than that. And we will be having a multifaceted program, as you've heard me start to address in the last few weeks, that addresses from access to quick justice in the law courts with the increased judges that we've put in place, to the question of improving the quality of policing and the training within the police force. We've already reached out to a number of countries to be able to bolster that training. In fact, quite frankly, some of it was in cards before COVID and had to be put on the freezing, on pause during COVID. Similarly, with respect to the additional judges that we put in place, no jury trials could take place during COVID, and therefore the build-up of the murder cases and the gun cases happened again.
The Prime Minister revealed that 80% of the murder cases before the courts in Barbados are for murders committed before 2018.
That is our reality. And almost 80% of the gun crimes before the court are for gun crimes for possession before 2018. So that we have added additional judges and prosecutors in order to be able to see if we can put a further dent on the reduction of those, to ensure that we do not have the awful spectacle of people on bail with 2 and 3 murder charges not committed at the same time walking about Barbados. In my day, nobody got bail for murder, but regrettably, or good thing, jurisprudence has changed, and jurisprudence globally believes that you cannot detain persons beyond a certain period of time without trial, without them being and having access to liberty to move about. That is the world that we now live in.
A lucky escape for a woman and her 7-year-old granddaughter following a 2-vehicle accident along the ABC highway opposite the Barbados Water Authority this morning. Roving cameraman Chris Wood was on the scene moments after the accident, which occurred around 7:15, involving a car and a container truck occurred. Emergency personnel, including the police and ambulance service, arrived quickly on the scene. The car sustained damage to its left side and front bumper area. The truck, meanwhile, cleared away a number of palm trees, damaging its windscreen before ending up on the embankment. The driver of the car, identified as 52-year-old Lisa Detterville, was later transported by ambulance for medical treatment. She was comforted on the scene. The island's COVID-19 numbers continue to be relatively consistent over the past few months, with the change to fortnightly dashboards. This, as the COVID-19 dashboard for the period October 29th to November 11th shows that 4 people died during the period, while the country recorded 531 new COVID cases from 3,795 tests carried out by labs across the country. As a result, the total number of deaths have now reached 564. In the information released by the Ministry of Health and Wellness today, it was revealed that 15 people were hospitalized as a result of COVID-19 related illness up to November 11th. As Barbados journeys towards creating a civil aviation authority, the country is being told the move will not only result in compliance with international protocols, but it will also bring some much-needed upgrades for local civil aviation operations. That was a submission from Energy Minister Senator Lisa Cummins as she led off this morning's Upper House debate on the Civil Aviation Bill 2022. Senator Cummins, who is also a former tourism minister, explained the transition was long overdue and it will help the country remain internationally competitive while meeting the benchmarks outlined by the International Civil Aviation Authority.
The ICAO standards governed by these are the Chicago Convention standards, and they govern in a series of annexes what countries are required. The threshold, Mr. President, is 80%, a pass rate of 80%. It was felt in 2019, Mr. President, that Barbados needed to do a comprehensive reform of its aviation system in order to ensure that we could meet the requirements of the audit.
Deputy President of the Senate, Her Honor Senator Elizabeth Thompson, has fired back at critics of government officials traveling for international meetings. She notes attendance at these sessions are necessary to ensure that Barbados gets its points and position on the table.
The world is changing, and Barbados is changing with it. We are one of the frontline countries in relation to climate change. We have been pushed onto those front lines, not by our own actions, but by the actions of others. It is a front line from which we cannot escape. We are addressing a cost of climate that we can ill afford. And there is upon us the responsibility for this and future generations to address the consequences and the ravages of climate on society, economy, and environment for our people. And we cannot influence the space if we stay home and drink our rum and cokes or eat our ham cutters. You have to be in the space fighting at the negotiating tables.
Meanwhile, Independent Senator Andrew Malalu believes the time has come for some of the aviation health protocols for Barbados to be executed more efficiently. Comparing other arrival experiences with Barbados, he says some of our practices hinder the deplaning process, among other things.
Barbados, we all have experienced it. We sit there on the plane, and eventually we manage to get up, and then we wait and we see, a person who comes up the stairs, and they come and they speak to the air hostess who provides some papers. They look at these papers, and over the years I've asked the question, who is that? It turns out that it's a health person that comes. But I still don't understand why it is that we do this in all of the things that we could do. People are anticipating getting off this plane quickly. Why is it that in other countries they're able to do this electronically or otherwise? And I raise this not for that particular instance, but to say that we must challenge everything that we do, every process that we have, to remove the friction from what it is that we are doing. Is there really a reason in 2022?
National Library Service celebrates a major anniversary. The National Library Service has committed to continue promoting culture, literacy, and lifelong learning. This as the service celebrated a significant anniversary this morning by placing a time capsule in its Whole Town branch.
From early in the morning, a crowd began to build. A mix of National Library Service employees, winners of their 2022 Poetry Slam competition, and some visitors to the island were among those in the crowd that were serenaded by the Barbados Police Service Band as part of the ceremony called Treasures in Time. The time capsule contains memorabilia of the Whole Town Library, registration cards, pictures of historic Whole Town and staff, as well as face masks. It was presented to the Acting Director of the Library Service, Jennifer Yard, by Staff Sergeant of the Barbados Cadet Corps, Sarah Downs. Ms. Yard said staff at all libraries promoted their branches as part of the anniversary celebrations.
Every library tells its own unique story. These stories awaken not only an appreciation of the past, but also a realization that what happens today is tomorrow's history. The Whole Town Branch Library has a rich history, some of which has never been heard of because it was never documented. The time capsule will store some of these stories and memories for future generations.
Permanent Secretary in the Prime Minister's Office in the Division of Culture, Hugh Allman, said the time capsule is a manifestation of Barbados's intangible cultural heritage.
It is a story of the Whole Town Branch Library, through the memories of its patrons, the adults, the children, the staff members who work at the library, and the visitors who have made lasting friendships and relationships with those who work at the library. Safeguarding activities must therefore always involve the communities, the groups, and where appropriate, individuals that bear such heritage. It means making sure that intangible cultural heritage remains an active part of today's generation, that they can be handed over to tomorrow's generation.
Lorraine Best Maskell was one of the first to use the Holton branch on the day it opened back in 1956.
I was so excited when I got inside and saw all those books, because in those days we didn't have a lot of books other than school books. You could not go in a bookstore like now. So to go in a building and you see all these books, I get excited. I'm really interested in signing up. My grandmother did all that. But I went and I checked out the books.
The time capsule will be opened in 25 years.
For the first time in over 2 years, the Independence Parade will return to its grand scale. The COVID-19 pandemic restricted numbers back in 2020 and 2021. However, Barbados Defense Force Commander Mark Peterson says this year will be special. Crystal Hoyt has more.
The usual pomp and pageantry will return to Kensington Oval come November 30th, as Barbados commemorates its 56th anniversary of independence. Commander Mark Peterson told CBC News that approximately 1,000 persons will be on parade.
The armed units this year will be drawn from the Barbados Defense Force, which comprises the Barbados Coast Guard, the Barbados Regiment, and the Corps of Women. We will also have the Barbados Cadet Corps and also the Barbados Police Service. The unarmed units are drawn from eclectic mix of uniform organizations, namely the Barbados Boy Scout Association, the Girl Guides Association of Barbados, the Barbados Landship, the Barbados Youth Advance Corps, the Barbados Fire Service, the National Conservation Commission, the Government Security Guards, and the Barbados Prison Service, just to name a few. Also on parade this year will be the multi-troop of the Barbados Police Service and the mass band of the Barbados Police Service and the Barbados Defense Force.
And while Barbadians can expect a grand display, there will also be some changes.
Unique this year to the parade, we're going to essentially march all the troops off the parade ground to give space to the other element of the presentation, which is the presentation of awards to all head boys and head girls of all public and private schools in Barbados, the national awards and honors conferred to Barbadians, the address to the nation by the Honorable Prime Minister, followed closely by a presentation by a very popular entertainer known to all across the diaspora and to Barbadians alike.
As the final preparations get underway, Commander Peterson is inviting all Barbadians to the parade. Crystal Hoyt, CBC News.
Thanks, Crystal. The St. Philip South Independence Gala slated for this Saturday should set the tone for celebrations marking the 56th anniversary of independence. Branch Vice President Mona Aline says it is an initiative that will touch everyone. She adds a number of small businesses will be on show and there will also be entertainment.
We are looking at Ronnie D. And for experience, there's Kids Sight, there's Ishaka McNeil, and later in the day there's going to be a karaoke part of the program. Now this has come about because of the festive season, of course. We've got Independence, we've got Republic Day, and then we move into Advent, Christmas. So we are doing all this activity to bring the members of the St. Philip South Branch together. All of this is done under the patronage of our MP in their rear.
The health of the nation's children continues to be high priority. That was expressed this morning as the Barbados Association of Muslim Ladies and the Barbados Heart and Stroke Foundation presented a water cooler to the St. Martin's Mangrove Primary School. Trevor Thorpe has the story.
18 schools across Barbados have already benefited from the generosity of the Barbados Association of Muslim Ladies and the Heart and Stroke Foundation. The two organizations have provided a water cooler. And Education Minister Kay McConney has asked the students to take care of it as they strive to build a healthier nation.
The effort that we have made here and the partnerships we have developed that are part of this effort now, we want you to continue to grow them, and that we expect that over the next several years, the partnerships for healthy schools will grow, not only by the private sector partners and the third sector or the non-profit partners, but the communities around us.
Heart and Stroke Foundation youth advocate Hania Balbulia said the initiative is in support of the Drink More Water campaign, but there's still much work to do in this fight.
For me, in my dual role of the Team BAML and also a youth advocate of the Heart and Stroke Foundation, seeing my counterparts at this time of drinking soft drinks regularly and indulging in unhealthy activities makes me realize we have much work to do.
Chief Executive Officer of the Heart and Stroke Foundation of Barbados, Michelle Daniel, said a school's nutritional policy had been recently passed by government, but our children are challenged daily and the time to act is now.
It will be critical for government to encourage the involvement of other key stakeholders, including more and more civil society organizations in this process. Why? Because the village, the community, we are the ones responsible for driving and enforcing change, even if in steps and phases. The school nutrition policy is a document and a very important one. However, to be brought to life, it will need many hands and feet to work together in order to operationalize it, make it real and practical, for the want of a better word, to enforce it.
The St. Martin's Mangrove Primary School has a roll of 130 students. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
The Business Report, brought to you with the compliments of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
We're hearing tonight that lamb hams will be back on tables this Christmas. Word of this came from NIFCA 2008 Governor General's Award winner Michelle Maloney Smart. Now a director at Smart Meats, she told the Business Report it's a labor of love.
I have no complaints. Our slogan is that we're building our brand one customer at a time. We have so far 3 sausages on the market, 17 flavors of burgers. We have 3 ham types also. On November the 15th, we launch our lamb ham. We also do a molasses ham, a Scotch bonnet infused ham, and our Mount Gay rum ham.
Ooh. The award-winning chef told the Business Report the hams initiative was to satisfy the non-pork lovers in society, and Smart Meats will soon be in supermarkets across Barbados.
It was an idea that my husband had from last year to actually bring a lamb ham and a beef ham to the market for non-pork lovers. We already have the turkey ham in place. It is a phenomenal product. We took the product to class and we got some really great reviews about the lamb ham.
Okay, everybody can settle down now. Hot dogs and wieners are back. Barbadians were without the products for nearly 2 weeks due to a mechanical breakdown and shipping difficulties with the supply of replacement parts at manufacturers Hanschel Innes Limited. However, Chief Executive Officer Vidia Woods told the Business Report there were problems, but production is back.
The manufacturing plant that makes these wieners is Hypack Limited. You're familiar with this company. We are the distributor. Hanschel Innes is the distributor of the product. They would have had some problems with their machinery, with some parts, and you know with the long lead times with getting parts at this point in time, whether it's free to whatever it is, it would have affected them. They got that part was in store, started back last week, as we would have updated other persons. And we have started production as at the end of last week and distribution to the companies. So the fast food outlets you're speaking about, whether it is a convenience store or gas station, they all would have gotten stock at the end of last week over the weekend.
The CEO said the challenges have been dealt with and retailers have been notified.
Everything is back to normal, but as you can understand, the line is now building back all the SKUs, right? So you'll have different types of wieners. So that's what we're doing. We're building back all the stock and we're filling back the trade as soon as they come off.
Time for the second half in sports now. And welcome back, Anne-Marie.
And we have some cricket news. West Indies pacer Alzari Joseph collected 3 for 52 on the opening day of the West Indies final warm-up match against the Prime Minister's 11 in Canberra early this morning. The PM's 11 ended the day on 297 for 9 after openers Matthew Renshaw with 81 and Marcus Harris with 73 put on an opening stand of 134. Roston Chase picked up 2 for 72 while Jaden Seals and Kemar Roach collected 1 wicket apiece. After the day's play, Joseph spoke with former West Indies skipper Carl Hooper.
Love the aggressive way you went about after lunch. You probably came in and had a chat with Roddy and Phil and so on and changed up the field, had a bad pad, a leg slip and so on, targets and short balls. The feedback that we got from Renshaw that you're slippery. But what I enjoyed is watching you bowl late this evening. The pace look up, the rhythm still look up. You look fit, you look strong. How do you feel going in now to the first test? You feel you're ready? You feel you're prepared?
I feel I'm fairly ready, yeah. But you know, I just try to keep adding the 1% every day. So for me in this game, my aim is just to get my best rhythm and be consistent in the areas.
What about the bowling with the pink ball? Have you played with the pink ball before?
Yeah, I've played a few first-class games. I've played one pink ball just before, so I have an idea as to how it goes. But everywhere has different conditions, so you start to assess.
That's right.
What are the main differences you find with that pink ball?
It does a bit more sometimes, but it's just at, you know, when the lights start to take effect, it does a bit more for the bowlers.
The plan tomorrow for the West Indies, what is it?
Well, tomorrow, first thing we have to do is get the last wicket, and then we need to come out and assess the way, because, you know, day 2 might be playing different to day 1, so it's just for the batters to come out, assess, and then move on from there.
The Z Money Independence Junior Road Tennis Competition served off at various communities across the island recently. One of those venues included the courts of the Barbados Community College, where some of the opening action was keen. CBC's Sean Green reports.
This game featured Kyrique Aline taking on Romario Barker with his back toward the camera. Aline, with the aggressive intensity, pounds it past Barker. But there are times when being ultra-aggressive can also backfire, and this is one of those occasions. Aline staying backcourt with the forcing shot, followed by another, but the net says no. Barker serves up a juicy return from Aline's serve, and Kyrique pounced on it like a lion on a gazelle, and Barker had no answer to that pace. When Barker got the opportunity to serve, Aline wouldn't let the young man settle either. The return going between his legs. Aline winning the contest 21-12, 21-13. This is Michael Thomas in the red trunks taking on Devontae Lane in a more competitive matchup. 2 aggressive style players, so you know you can expect a fast-paced game with plenty of shots and plenty of errors, of course. Thompson with the serve and in a hurry trying to push that forcing shot off the nets, and where did that go? Into orbit? Thompson was persistent, getting a chance to get inside the court, and this time he pulls the trigger. Switching courts now, and Lane sends down this one, leaving Thompson with some work to do. But Lane has something lined up for his opponent. Work that, son. Point to Lane. And it was time to polish off this game, and Lane with a beautiful cross-court killer which ends Thompson. Lane winning 16-21, 21-19, 23-21. This next game featured Zico Beckles taking on Kobe Burgess in the maroon and purple. And remember that this is a junior tournament, and some of these youngsters are now learning the game. Burgess, though, was taking no prisoners. Beckles serving to Burgess, and Burgess testing his opponent's backhand a few times until he found him wanting. Burgess was literally running circles around Beckles, running him ragged. Obviously the more experienced of the two, asking questions of his technique, trapping him with this return. But Beckles would keep trying, and Burgess, though, was merciless. Take a look at that shot past his man before he could get across, completing the massacre. 21-7, 21-10.
That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.